I'm joined with Sarah.
Hello.
How are you going today, Sarah?
Good. Yes, I'm good.
That's
good.
good. Sorry, there's a dog jumping up on me. And what have your thoughts been about since I've asked you to come join on Behind the Look?
Well, obviously it was actually like a little while ago now, wasn't it? So I've had some time to think about it.
Yes.
I've been a bit nervous. I won't lie. I feel pretty confident talking about this kind of stuff. I would say nothing's really off limits for me when it comes to this kind of thing. But I think I think it's leaving it in your control that's a bit scary for me, because obviously I'm so used to talking on my stories and things like that, talking to my phone, talking to me, like my followers, my clients. But then when it comes to, I suppose, being on someone else's show, it's a little bit different.
It is, hey. And even I'll get started. Even I sometimes get a bit nervous as well going into it. Because we've only met once, I think, at the studio. And so that's if I hadn't have met you, it would also be that kind of nervous. I don't know the vibe. But
I'm glad we got the opportunity to meet first.
Oh, because, we got to know each other. Is there a certain look that you'd like?
Oh, I don't know, really. I mean, I'll leave it full reign to you, whatever you want to do.
So day to day, you say you're confident with speaking and all that to your audience. What makes you nervous talking on someone else's platform?
Oh, okay. So I mean, I suppose when it comes to talking on someone else's platform, it's kind of if I was to film something of myself, if I say something wrong or I word something in a particular way, I reckon I take different videos of myself 40 times before I can actually post it, because not because I'm worried about what I've said, but more because I'll stuff up my words, or I'll say something and I'm like, oh, that probably could have been worded a little bit better. My brain goes off on a tangent and then I come back. And so I think leaving it up to you, it's kind of an unfiltered sort of, I suppose, expression of who I am. And that's obviously, I'm more than okay with that. And you obviously don't grow in your comfort zone, and doing things that push me out of my comfort zone are obviously what this era of my life is all about. So I think it's important to to do these things that do scare us, and make it a little bit more intimidating, because it's the only way you're going to grow, isn't it?
So do you do that often, trying to do things out of your comfort zone?
I would say as of lately, definitely. Just been trying to, I suppose, experience new things, take on different tasks, do something new that I suppose I've never done before, or, things that I have always wanted to do, but never did. I think for a really long time, I kind of held on to this identity of myself. And I was always the person that was like, oh, I couldn't do that. I can't do that. Who do I think I am to be able to do something like that? And it's for example, I used to look at people, I've recently started running. And so I used to look at people who would run marathons. And I remember seeing girls in the gym running for ages. I'd finish my entire workout and I'd be like, oh my God, they're still on the treadmill. So I always thought, I can never be a girl that runs long distance, things like that. And then just started doing it. And I think, once you detach from that mentality of that limiting belief of being able to, of not being able to do something, and thinking more along the lines of, I am someone that could run a marathon if I wanted to, or run a half marathon. What's holding me back? Why? Why could somebody else do that and not me? It's not like I, have anything limiting me. That it was literally just my mindset. And so I suppose it's the same sort of thing when it comes to business. I would look at people that, run their own business and things like that, and I'd be like, oh my God, that would be so hard. And then, it's all about, I suppose, just taking that leap and, building the self-trust to know that once you start something, you are capable of doing more and more and more. And there really is no limit to what I suppose you can do as a human being and as a person. I think it's, really important to step out of your comfort zone and do the things that scare you a little bit.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
How'd you get into this mindset?
A lot of self-work, to be honest.
It does take that.
Yes. I honestly have listened to a lot of podcasts, read some books. It was just a lot of self-reflection, I think, and just really putting in the work. I knew that I wanted to better myself and have a better mindset, and I knew that I wanted to I suppose, changed the way I thought about things.
Yep.
A lot of self-work, you know, podcasts are literally my favorite thing in the entire world. I love a podcast, always listening to podcasts. I find that I've just learnt so much about like myself when listening to podcasts. You know, you listen to certain people talk and you're like, oh, I do that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I think I listen to a lot of people and it's given me a lot of explanation as to why I do the things that I do. And then, so I suppose looking more towards that mindset was letting go of an old mindset that I had and, you know, recognizing that I was the only person that was holding myself back. And so, yeah, I suppose that's kind of what sort of pushed me into, you know, having this mindset that I have now is that I, you know, just want to change. I just wanted to, you know, go through life experiencing it and enjoying it and not, I suppose, holding myself back and, you know, letting my life live and not letting me live my life. Do you know what I mean?
I know that.
Yeah.
There's a saying, it's like, rather than just existing, you want to be able to also be living.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think, you know, for a really long time I was just existing, and even more so than that, I was probably just surviving. And it was, you know, it was super, super hard for me. But then once I kind of realized that, you know, you do only get one life. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things that I learned recently was, and I think Steve Jobs said this, and it was to remind yourself of mortality all the time.
Yes, I do that too.
Yeah. And I think it's been such a game changer for me because, and I was listening to a podcast the other day actually, which I think is really, really good to, I suppose, bring here. And it's that you need to start looking at your life as though the life you've already lived is death. Do you know what I mean? And so you can't get that time back. You can't, you know, the life that you've already lived has been and gone. Yeah. So that is essentially death if you look at it that way. And I think that teaches you to not only live in the present, but really feel a sense of gratitude for every day.
Yeah.
Because, like, you do only get one time on this earth. And I think, what's the point in living life either, you know, for someone else, for, like, societal pressure, like societal expectations, that kind of thing. I think, you know, you are put on this earth to do whatever it is you're meant to do. Yeah. So, yeah.
I love that because that is so my mindset as well. Like, obviously there's times where you can sort of forget that when you're in a deep rut, you know, but like when I come out of it, I'm like, yep, remember that. And like, it's just so powerful.
It is, definitely. And it's, you know, such a game changer when you do start looking at life that way.
Yes. Have you seen the movie About Time?
No, I don't.
It's basically about that. Like, it's got Rachel McAdams in it. It's one of my favorite movies because he can time travel, but it's not like so sci-fi. It's more like relatable. Yeah. And at the end, I don't want to spoil it. But it's got the same sort of metaphor of like life. And I agree with the whole, like, I just always aim to pretend that, you know, the saying of like, oh, life's so short, you're gonna die. Like, imagine if you die tomorrow and have you done all the things that you wanted to do, etc. But the thing is, like, we actually don't know. Like, tomorrow could be the day. And like, we might never get the opportunity to do all the things that we want to do unless we actually go for it ourselves. Definitely.
1,000%. And like, I was listening to another podcast this morning, and I think it was David Goggins he was on the School of Greatness, which is my favorite podcast, and he was saying that, you know, if there is something after life, you know, when you were to go, you know, if you do go to heaven and there is some higher power, and imagine if, like, they put a piece of paper in front of you and it had all of these things on there that was like these huge achievements, you know, major achievements in life. And you were like, hang on a minute, like, this isn't my piece of paper. Like, this is the wrong person. Yeah. And then they turn around and say, well, this is who you were supposed to be.
I love that.
And, oh my God, it blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is incredible. You know, this is something that I think is so important because imagine if you, like, I always think about it this way as well. Like, if I never took the leap to, you know, do the job that I do now, like, I wouldn't have been able to help so many people. And it's like, those, like, who knows where those people could be as well, and it's like, who knows where I could be, and you just never know unless you take the leap and start doing things.
It's like all of our, like, life decisions have basically made us where we are now. Like,
Yeah.
it's how we've come here to this point.
Definitely.
And how we've just had this conversation
Yeah.
now. Like,
the butterfly effect.
yeah, I love it. So now you're in the fitness industry.
I am, yes.
How long have you been in that for?
Oh, when did I start? I think it was like 2 years ago, I want to say. Maybe even a bit longer than that now. My sense of time is really old. I think it was, so 2020 I started my studying. So 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what made you want to get into that industry?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big question. So I suppose if we take it back, I was in probably from, I want to say 2017 to 2019, probably the worst years of my entire life. Very, very, like, extremely depressed, to be honest. Very, very hard. Very, very tough. I tend to smile a lot, by the way, when I talk about these things, but it's kind of, I'm not laughing.
No, it's who you are.
Yeah. And so,
yeah,
so I, was extremely depressed, to be honest. Very, very depressed. I was, self-harming. I was suicidal.
Right.
There was a lot that was going on at that period of time in my life. And so, it lasted about 2 years until my mum said, we really need to do something about this, because I'll delve a little bit deeper into it, maybe after I answer the question.
Okay.
So my mum kind of said to me, something needs to change. We need to get you out of here. You need to go and do something. And so I'm originally from England. I was born in England.
Right.
And then my mum was like, well, let's book you a ticket.
Yeah.
Let's book you a flight home. And so I got on a flight home back to the UK and stayed with my cousin for a while. So I was there for about 3 months. And while I was over there, I obviously didn't have a job. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody, apart from, people that maybe I grew up with when I was really young. But what I started doing every day was I would get up, I had to walk like 3 kilometers to the gym. And considering I was someone who, was extremely depressed, as in would stay in bed all day, every day.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, very hard times. I started walking 3 kilometers every day to the gym, 3 kilometers back. And I just started realizing that moving my body, getting up, getting out of the house, changed everything.
Yeah.
And in such a short amount of time, and I think, a lot of it comes down to being away from the current situation that I was in, but also getting up and starting to do things that were positive and healthy for me. I started looking, I suppose, at life a little bit differently, and how good the gym made me feel, and how good, it was to, I suppose, do these things, get myself up. And then I realized that, I enjoyed the gym so much that I really wanted to turn it into a career. And I suppose I started initially looking into personal training, and so I became a personal trainer. And the main goal was to show people, how much fitness had changed my life and what it could then do for someone else's life.
Yeah.
And so I started my course. I started learning about fitness. I started my account, things like that, and then became a personal trainer and started taking on clients in the gym. And then now I suppose my job title is technically a personal trainer, but also like a mindset, lifestyle, fitness coach.
Yeah.
And so I take clients, now I have my own business from home. So I've turned my garage into a gym and I PT my clients from home. And now I also coach a lot of clients online and, in person as well. And so I do a lot more work, I suppose, now on the mindset as well. Because I think as much as, fitness and health and fitness will take you so far, but your mindset will take you further.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that, people, I suppose, learn about the mindset behind health and fitness, because for me, it wasn't necessarily about the gym itself.
Yeah.
It was about showing myself that I had the resilience to, get myself up every day, get out of the rut, go to the gym, prove to myself that I am not only physically strong, but I'm mentally strong. I, can do the things that were once really uncomfortable to me. And, building a lot of self-confidence in the gym built a lot of self-confidence within myself as well.
Yeah.
And so I suppose that was kind of what led me into the career I'm in today, because I knew that if it could be that powerful for me, I could do the same for other people. And I always say to everyone, I'm like, the gym really did save my life in, you know, in many different ways, because it was an outlet for me for the way I was feeling, but it was also what I suppose led me initially to, you know, transform the way that I have now. And so I think that was mainly the reason why I wanted to get into fitness, because I just wanted to change other people's lives. You know, I didn't want people to feel the same way that I felt and think that that was how they're going to feel forever. You know, there is always a way out. There is always help. There's always improvement. And I think, you know, being able to be that person that educates and nurtures people along their journey is so important to me. And I think it's like truly what I was meant to do. So
I feel like you are really stepping into who you were meant to be.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I love my job. I love my job so much. It's honestly, it doesn't feel like work. You know, I wake up every day, I do what I love doing, which is fitness, health, but also talking to people is the best part about my job. I love speaking to people and, you know, talking to them about things that go on in their life and guiding them down. You know, a lot of my clients, when they talk to me about things they've been through, often I can relate on my own level somewhat, and you know, this is how I did this, so maybe if you try this is where you'll, you know, so
at least like you're providing them like with the resources, or even just the relatability, like to show them that they aren't alone.
Definitely. And
I think that thank you so much as well for sharing
no, that's all right.
I really appreciate it.
I mean, look, like I think that's what makes me a good coach, is that they can relate to me, and I'm not someone that is so far out of reach. You know, I'm someone that they can turn to and they can come to, and they know that from me it's never going to be like a judgment sort of thing. You know, I'm not the person that's like, get up and get it done. You know, I'm not going to give you that kind of tough love, because I just know that that doesn't work for everyone. And, you know, some people want a coach like that. Some people want someone that's cutthroat and very,
and they can,
you know, get it done. But for me, that's not it. And for me, it's nurturing my clients, you know, guiding them down a journey that they can stick to long term, that's going to be sustainable for them, that they're actually going to enjoy, because everything for me in terms of fitness is enjoyable. I love training. I love, you know, what I do. I love listening to my podcast and going for walks, and it's all about finding something for my clients that's going to work for them, and ensuring that they, you know, enjoy the journey as well. And it's not just like, okay, well, I want to be here, so get me there. It's like, no, we're going to enjoy the journey, and we're going to go down this path together, so that we can improve your life overall and not just your body, because I think it's so much more than that. So
it really seems like the passion is flowing through you when you're talking.
I'm a bit nervous, so I'm going to talk a lot.
Okay, but like, everything that you're saying is like, it feels like this is your drive, this is your purpose, this is your goal, it's your mission, and like it's like you're thriving in it right now. That's how it seems.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, before you said if you wanted to dive deeper into that story, is that something you're feeling like you want to do? Yeah,
I mean, definitely. It's I suppose, look, there's a lot to talk about in terms of my life and my story, and I'm pretty open to talking about, you know, all of it, really. So
how did you get so open about talking about like mental health and everything?
I just think it's so important, you know, like when I was really struggling, I feel as though I was essentially like screaming out for help, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that people didn't help me, but I think maybe I needed more. And I think, you know, maybe if I saw other people being more open and vulnerable about what they were going through, it would have given me the tools to maybe talk to someone properly, and not just, I suppose, deny my own feelings. And, you know, I was at a point in my life where I didn't want to get any better.
Right, you were comfortable in that.
And I think, you know, there was a part of me that did want to get better. You know, I was screaming, crying, and you know, wishing that life would just get better, but was I going to take any of the necessary actions to do that? No.
That's literally been me too.
And I think, you know, when you are dealing with depression, it's really heavy, and it's not just, and this is why when talking to my clients, I'm not the coach that's like, just get up and do it. Because I know for myself that was never going to work. You know, I was the person that was like ringing in sick to work all the time, and because I literally just wouldn't be able to get myself up out of bed. And it was, you know, it was like a massive struggle every day for me. I think talking about it you know, as a coach, as someone in my position, it's really important to know that, you know, people like myself do still struggle with depression. It's not so much a struggle anymore. I think that's the wrong word. I think it's, you know, every day now is much easier for me, and the darker times are very few and far in between these days. But back then they certainly weren't. And I think it's important for people to know that, you know, depression doesn't just go away. It's not just something that you deal with for a certain amount of time and then, well, I mean, not in my experience anyway. And I think it's important that people know that the way they're feeling is normal to some extent. And that, you know, there is help out there. There's other people who have experienced these sort of problems, and, you know, that I think for me it's really important to talk about where I've come from and where I am now, because it shows that journey is possible for other people who might be struggling right now.
Yes.
And so that's probably the most important part for me, is that people know, you know, there is a way out. There is that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not all, you know, doom and gloom for the rest of your life. I think as long as you know, are willing to take the necessary steps, and you have to be ready. You have to be ready to take those steps. You know, you can't be, you're never going to do it if you're not 100% ready. Like my mum kept saying to me, you know, we should just book a flight to England. And I was like, nah, I'm not going. I'm absolutely not going. And then one day, you know, it just got really bad, and she said, let's just do it. And I was like, yep, book it. And booked the flight for the next week, and then I was gone. And so I think, it's just important to share that it does get better, but you also need to, I suppose, be willing to get better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things initially first, I suppose, stemmed for me in my life was in primary school, honestly. I went to a school that I was like severely bullied at, and not by students. So I was bullied a lot by teachers. And I think a lot of that stemmed from being a kid with ADHD that teachers didn't know how to deal with back then. Obviously, you know, I'm not ancient, but I'm 24 years old, and I think times have definitely changed a lot since I was maybe, you know, 7, 8 years old. And so there was teachers at school that, you know, were horrible to me, super nasty to me, really picked on me. I got locked in a room by myself in primary school.
By the teachers?
Yep.
Oh my God.
And so there was this, essentially every teacher I had always had a bad impression of me first. And I wasn't a naughty kid, you know, I wasn't like a bad kid that was going around doing things. I was just a kid with ADHD.
Yeah.
And so I was, you know, talkative. I was loud. I was very expressive. I've always been a very confident kid. You know, even when I was a kid, I would be the person that would be singing in assembly and that kind of stuff. Like I was a very confident kid.
Yeah.
And so I think my teachers kind of, I don't really know. I think there's no justifiable reason why a teacher picks on a kid, is there? Like, there's no way you can ever justify that.
That's not their job role, hey?
Yeah, but I mean, look, I was getting like kept in at lunchtime for no reason, as in like making me stand up in front of the class if I didn't put my hand up for a question.
Right.
You know, just like picking on me if I wore the wrong socks, or I'd get, you know, detention or suspended for doing certain things. And then like it got to the point where my mum had to come, you know, to the school. And was like, you know, Sarah like doesn't respond to you guys picking on her like this. You know, every classroom I move into, the teacher already had a personal vendetta against me. It was like they were having a staff room meeting, like, oh, you've got Sarah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was a situation at school where, you know, I think I just didn't put my hand up or something like that. And then I got made to stand up in front of the class, got screamed at by the teacher. You know, I was crying my eyes out in the front of the class. And my mum was stood outside because she was coming to pick me up. So she had the dog outside, you know, pulled the teacher out of the classroom and was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you yelling at her like this? She's a 7-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Or like 8-year-old, how old was I when I moved to Australia? I was like an 8 or 9-year-old girl. And, you know, yelling at me in front of the class and making me cry. And I think it doesn't seem like a big deal, but to a kid, you know, that's huge to get singled out all the time.
Yep, of course.
And I think so I had this major like trust issues in adults from an early age. You know, I had this teacher that was going at me, and then when I remember saying to her, crying my eyes out and being like, I just don't understand why you hate me so much.
Oh.
And, you know, I was like 9 years old, and then she actually gave me a hug, which is weird, really strange. Gave me a hug and was like, I don't hate you, like, you know, then being really nice. And so this was kind of like a common theme, you know, they would be super nasty to me and then they'd be really nice in front of my parents. And then it wasn't until like my mum, I suppose, saw it with her own eyes that she was like, all right, this is not okay. Like, you know, Sarah wasn't lying, you know, she's not, you know, actually being naughty. And then it was after that when I suppose things kind of changed. They started being a little bit nicer to me because they knew my parents knew now.
Yeah.
So I think from a young age, I had this major trust issues, like just trust issues. That's I suppose the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then I got into high school. High school. And I got bullied in high school, but by older girls.
Right.
And so I don't know how to talk about this without it sounding cocky, but I genuinely only think I was bullied because I was attractive.
Right.
And so, and I think there's...
Well, a lot of people do project.
Yeah,
their
100%. And now looking back, you know, I can definitely recognize that.
Yeah.
And I always say to my clients now that every single person is a reflection of how they feel about themselves. You know, everybody is a mirror.
Amen.
And they will project their insecurities onto you and, you know, try to bring you down because they don't feel good about themselves. And I suppose that's why I've been able to forgive a lot of people in my life that have hurt me, because I know that hurt people, essentially. And I suppose later in life I learned that about myself. And I'll delve into that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got bullied in year 7 by girls in like year 9 or something like that. You know, constant bullying to the point where I moved schools, moved to a new school, got bullied there as well, got followed home by like 5 girls that were trying to, you know, beat me up. And it was all over a boy. I got the boy that people wanted.
Right.
And so it was, at the time, you know, it was really shit, to be honest. No, you're right. And so I developed such a lack of trust in just females in general. You know, I had major trust issues when it came to girls. I probably had one friend that was a female that I kept from primary school into, I'd say, about year 9. And then she went off into like the VCAL side of things and I was doing VCE. So we kind of split in our friendship a little bit. We're still in contact today, still love her.
Yeah.
And then, so because I had such a fear of females, I just became friends with guys. And so the guy that I was dating at the time, my ex, he had a group of guy friends at school. And so I was the girl that would hang out with 10 guys, all the boys. And so for me, that developed a lot of masculine energy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll delve into that a little bit. I would hang out with all the boys. I had no problem hanging out with guys. You know, they were, without to sound cliche, like they're less drama. But they also just weren't nasty to me. You know, I suppose hanging out with guys was much easier. Or so I thought anyway. And I suppose I developed a sense of wanting to be more masculine. You know, I got into a headspace of wanting people to be scared of me. You know, I built up this huge defense mechanism to, I suppose, protect myself from being bullied at school, but also, you know, I suppose I would get bullied at school every day and then I would come home and my home life wasn't great either.
Right.
My parents were going through a lot. And I suppose this is where a lot of it stems from, is that, you know, I have a very tumultuous, however you say that word.
I don't know the word.
Okay, I have a very rocky relationship with my dad.
Right.
And although I love my dad, I will always love my dad. I suppose I've forgiven my dad for a lot because he did the best with what he knew for his life. Do you know what I mean? And
I agree with that.
Yeah, and so when you've grown up with...
Sorry about the dogs barking, by the way. Sorry, we'll just keep it going.
No, that's okay.
It's real.
And so, you know, you can't, again, forgiveness has been huge for me, and understanding and compassion for people in my life and for the people that did hurt me, because I know that they, again, hurt people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think my dad didn't get the love that he needed growing up. Yeah. And so he didn't know how to show me the love that I needed growing up. Yeah, my dad did the best with what he knew at the time and the way that he was brought up. But the way that I was always growing up, nothing was ever good enough. And I was always trying to constantly prove myself. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think back to like my little inner child, and I'm like, you know, you are good enough. Like there was, you know, you don't have to prove yourself. You're good enough just for existing.
Yeah.
And so my dad, you know, was very much the type of person that would put me down in the hopes that it would make me do better, because essentially that's what happened with him, and his parents would, you know, put him down, and then he would do better, essentially.
And that's generational trauma.
Yeah, it is generational trauma, and it's massive. And the thing for me is that obviously being, you know, I'm sure this is really tough for males as well, but I think in my dad's point of view, he's a tough male, you know, old school, like, we just get shit done, you know, we don't cry about it. Whereas being a young girl growing up, I didn't need that, you know what I mean? I didn't need someone to put me down all the time. I didn't need someone to be nasty to me and horrible to me, and, you know, our home environment became so toxic and constant yelling, screaming, you know, banging around. You know, I grew up hating my dad, if I'm being honest. I really did. And it was such a, like, it's really difficult for me to talk about now, because I do love him, and he's, you know, there's no, I suppose, there's nothing I hold against him now, but a lot of my issues do stem from a lot of my problems do stem from my relationship with him, and, you know, the constant need to prove myself. And then I had this massive attachment style. I was so needy, you know, I wanted someone to love me and validate me and tell me I'm doing good, and, you know, like, please love me with
I
guys.
Get this.
Yeah. And so it was such a, you know, it was so hard for me to, I suppose, feel that way growing up. And the relationship obviously had a huge impact. And so when my ex had broken up with me, I obviously had this attachment style that was so anxious and needy that, you know, I thought, this is all a reflection of me, you know, I'm not good enough. You know, he's got, like, broken up with me because, you know, of me. I'm not good enough. I haven't done enough. I should have done more. I could have done this. I could have done that, you know. And I was with him for, you know, 4.5 years. So my teenage years were all with him. And I think part of me just tied not only my identity to him, but also he was, I suppose, the only safe person I had at that time. And then things became really, really toxic between him and I. Essentially, the reason why those 2 years were so hard for me was because him and I were very back and forth. You know, it was that kind of situation where it was, oh, we'll get back together, we'll, you know, that kind of thing. And then he was off sleeping with my friends and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of trauma.
A lot of trauma when it comes to that sort of situation, that breakup. And so I suppose this is where it gets really, like, I'll be really vulnerable about it. You know, I became I became the worst version of myself, if I'm being honest. Like, I was the absolute worst version of myself. I was severely depressed, but also I was angry. I was so angry. I was so hurt. I feel like my whole world came crumbling down. My parents had gotten divorced. You know, there was a lot going on. My mum couldn't be there emotionally for me because she was dealing with, you know, the loss of her dad, and also her sister had a brain hemorrhage. So there was a lot that was going on. So my mum had a lot going on herself, and I feel like I had to be a support system for my mum. Yeah. And also she divorced from her husband for 27 years. So, you know, that kind of was a massive thing that was on my mind as well, is that I wasn't okay. Yeah. My mum wasn't okay. My poor little sister, she's just, she was just, you know, living life. And then, so I became just a really, like, not a great version of myself, to be honest. I was, as I said, just very angry, nasty. I became violent. You know, I suppose if I saw my ex out in public with girls, like, my first instinct was to, you know, go up and like punch him in the face or something like that, which is such a horrible thing, I suppose, horrible way to feel. And I can't make an excuse for myself and say that, you know, I was just depressed, hurt people. I can't go around saying that, because in reflection, that is not ever okay. You should never get to a point where you're feeling like you need to, you know, hit someone or become violent. But I suppose violence was such a prominent thing in my life, and, you know, I'd grown up witnessing it around boys. You know, there was the masculine energy in me that was the only way I thought I could, I suppose, stand up for myself, because I knew that I was physically capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But on the inside, I was so weak, as in, and not weak as in, nobody with depression is weak, but I was weak as in I couldn't control my emotions. There was no part of me that could control any thoughts, processes that was going on. And that's when I started self-harming. That's when I was, you know, I was doing drugs, I was drinking, I just self-destruction mode, really in self-destruction mode. And I don't regret this part of my life, because it has definitely taught me a lot, and it's the reason why I am where I am today. Exactly, and, you know, I've grown so much, but I think it got really bad to the point where, you know, I did try to kill myself. And so that was in 2019. 2019, yeah. And so I did try to kill myself, and that was, you know, a very intense, very dark time for me. And that was, I suppose, the turning point where my mum was like, you know, we really need to go and do something about this. Like, this is getting obviously a little bit too far. And, you know, it's hard when you're in that mindset. There is, you genuinely don't see any other way out. You don't. And for me, I was thinking, you know, what am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? You know, I feel like I have nothing. You know, this is all my fault. I took on so much shame and so much blame for everything, you know, for hurting people, for, you know, my parents' divorce, for my family, the destruction of my family, and, you know, obviously the breakup of my relationship and everything. I took all of that on board, and none of that was my fault. None of that was my fault. And I suppose, like, for me, it was such a dark time for so long, like a really, really dark time. And I didn't want to be here anymore. I really didn't. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like my life. Didn't like what I was doing. I felt like I had no friends. And I suppose I feel really sorry for, I've got my beautiful best friend, Michaela. She was there through everything, you know, she saw everything. I remember I lost my phone once, and I destroyed my bed, like, as in kicked it, broke it, because I was such an angry person. You know, there was it was 0 to 100 so quickly. And I suppose that is what also happened, not only with anger, but with sadness as well, that it was just so 0 to 100 so quick. And for me, that was, the only way out. And obviously after that, going to England, you know, coming back, that's when I really did change and turn my life around and, you know, recognized that I was being so self-destructive. I was, you know, doing all the wrong things. There was nothing that I was doing right for myself. And I think the biggest thing is awareness. You know, once you recognize that you are doing the wrong things, you know, you've got to really look inwards. And the biggest learning curve for me has been to focus fully inwards and recognize, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? You know, what is hurting me? Like, why is this triggering me? Why do I feel this way? And I came home and completely separated myself from any of the people that I was friends with. And it's nothing, you know, nothing to do with them. They're all beautiful people deep down. And it's just, I knew that I was meant to do more than what I was doing, you know, going out partying every weekend. I was working at Bunnings at the time, and I absolutely hated my job. I hated it. And so I just knew that I was meant to do something more. I knew I was meant for more. I wanted more. And so I had to let go of that past version of myself and move forward. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
That's okay.
And I want to say, like, I am happy that you are alive. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, me too. Me too.
What a shift. And it seemed like you had to carry so much for so long.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I mean, I feel like I've scratched the surface a little bit. I also feel like I've probably overshared. But it's, I think it's important for people to know, you know, and I've touched briefly on these sorts of things in my life. And, you know, I suppose growing up the way I did and with the friends I had and the people I surrounded myself with, it has all shaped me into who I am today. And I know that I've let go of that old version of me, that, you know, the one that did need to, you know, I wanted people to be scared of me. I was like, I want you to think that I'm tough and that I'm scary and that, you know, no one's going to hurt you if they're scared of you. Do you know what I mean? That was my mentality at the time.
And your defense mechanism.
Yeah, and that's what I was putting out into the world. And, you know, anger was my first line of defense, I think. And so when I spoke to... I've obviously seen therapists and things like that. I actually saw a hypnotherapist most recently. And we had to go through a lot of, I suppose, my triggers. And the first sort of line of defense for me is always anger.
Right.
Every single time. It's always anger. And this is something that I don't deal with as much today. It's not, I can control it now, if that makes sense. And I suppose this is also an ADHD thing that, you know, we do have random outbursts of anger and, you know, we get frustrated very easily and it's, you know, I can't speak for everyone, but in my personal experience, that is definitely been, I suppose, a major factor in my life is that I've always been, you know, quite an angry person. And so that was, I suppose, one of the biggest driving forces for change for me was that I want to change and break the generational cycles that go on in my family, so that one day in 30 years' time, I'm not looking in the eyes of my kids and they're asking me, you know, why did you do this to me? Like, what did I do? Or you know, I don't want them to be looking at me and saying, this is how you fucked me up. And so that is the last thing I would ever want. And so I work on myself every single day because I know that I want better for me, but I want better for my future and I want better for my current partner. His name's Chris. He's amazing. He has helped me a lot in terms of my self-growth. And, you know, I think the biggest punishment in the world would be to lose him over not working on myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't carry past traumas and things like that into current relationships.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think, you know, as someone that has been hurt and, you know, cheated on and things like that in the past, you have to forgive first of all, and then you have to really sit with yourself.
Sorry about the lighting change on the camera change. We had to do that because the battery died. But as you were saying,
yes. Well, I feel like, look, there's been a lot of focus on like the negatives, and that was obviously not what I wanted to come here and talk about. You know, I think the negatives make up a lot of who I am and my life experience, but I don't identify with those anymore. Do you know what I mean? And so I think it's really important to now talk about, I suppose, where I am now and, you know, where I've gotten to and how I got here. And I think that is probably the most important part about it all is that, you know, although all of that stuff has happened and it's obviously, you know, it's kind of deep, it's pretty heavy stuff, I think,
but it's real
and it's real and it's raw and it's you know, it's my story. It is my story. And although I think some of it, you know, I am quite nervous to share this sort of thing, and I've touched on it before on, I suppose, my accounts, and I've spoken a couple times about it, more so in writing, I think.
Right.
But I think it's important to share, and I think there are a lot of people out there who might, you know, relate to my situation or things that I've gone through and can, I suppose, relate to it on a certain level and know that they aren't alone in thinking or feeling that way based on their experience. And as I was saying before, you know, forgiveness for me has been huge. I've had to forgive everyone in my life, and especially myself. I had to forgive myself for the way that I was, the way that I treated people, the way that I treated myself. You know, there was a massive part of me that held so much shame and so much guilt for what I'd done to other people and for the way that I'd hurt people. And, you know, I couldn't, I couldn't hold on to that forever and that guilt, because it was only holding me back. I think the most important things in order to grow and move forward as a human being is firstly to have the awareness to know what you're doing wrong, what you're doing to hold yourself back. You know, I had to really look inwards and sit with myself and, you know, ask myself, why am I doing these things? Why do I react this way? Why am I acting like this? And so self-awareness as to why you do things, why you are the way that you are, is essential to move forward. And then forgiveness. So forgiving everyone in my life that had, you know, maybe done wrong by me at the time, but also forgiving myself for the things that I did and the way that I suppose acted. And, you know, I know it's not a reflection of who I am. It's a reflection of, I suppose, what I was dealing with at the current time and how I knew to deal with things. Obviously now I know to deal with things much, much differently. And so, forgiveness is huge. You cannot go through life holding grudges. You cannot go through life, you know, hating people, or, you know, because all that does is take energy from you and absolutely nothing from them.
And it puts you in the past.
It does, and you just remain stagnant. You know, can you imagine walking through life and you know, holding a grudge against every single person that's ever done you wrong? It's just like, it would be exhausting. I couldn't even imagine it. It's like, you know, I've got clients now who, you know, were people that had bullied me in the past and things like that. It's like, we've moved forward, and you know, there's absolutely not one part of me that holds a grudge against anyone. You know, not my ex, not my friends, not people that had bullied me, not the teachers, like not my dad. You know, it's for me, it's all about moving forward and you know, just allowing yourself to move forward. You can't live in the past forever, that's for sure. And I suppose that one of the biggest things for me now is that every single day I'm looking at the person I want to become. You know, one of the best things I ever heard was to picture the person that you want to be, you know, in 1, 3, 5 years time, and just every single day show up as that person. So like, what is their daily routine? What are the habits they're doing? What, like, you know, what are they doing? What is that version of me doing?
And then you're then just living as that person. Like, that's basically how that happens.
Exactly. And that's how you become that person, because you are showing up every day, putting in the work to become the best version of you. And I think that's, I suppose, what changed for me, is knowing that, again, that I wanted more, and I just knew that I could be more. You know, I had so much potential that I was just holding back or you know, wasn't allowing myself to step into because of, I was holding on to the pain. You know, I was identifying with the pain. I was identifying as, oh, I'm just a depressed person. Like, I'm someone that's just depressed. You know, I'm suicidal, that kind of thing. And once I let go of that and, you know, stopped saying that I'm, you know, stopped identifying with someone who's depressed, you know, I was identifying as someone who is happy. And, you know, I feel like I'm a very high energy person, you know what I mean? I've got a lot of, I have a lot to say all the time. And, you know, so I started identifying as the positive things about me, you know, started looking towards the positive and started to realize that there are a lot of positives about me, you know.
We got dogs. Sorry.
Rein it in, buddy.
Please. And one of the things that I wanted to ask was, if someone is wanting to, you know, change up how they view themselves and their identity, and if they're stuck in a mindset of, you know, being that sort of, I don't know, victim mentality, would you say? Yeah.
Definitely.
What would be like the number one thing that you would say to someone in that state?
It's really important to, one, again, stop identifying as that version of you, but also some solid habits that you have to implement into your life in order to, you know, create a better life for yourself. And it's, for some people, you know, it isn't as easy as just, all right, that's it, I'm not going to be sad anymore. But little things that you do every day are going to equal up to big results. You know, my partner, he's amazing. He has helped me so much with my growth and everything like that. And so he told me the other day about this man. His name's Gary Vee. And and he basically said that the odds of you being alive are 400 trillion to 1. And so that you should never underestimate your own uniqueness, your own specialness. You know, you are deserving to be here. And the fact that you are here is such a miracle in itself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I think it's so important to remember that you, as a human being, first of all, are good enough just for being a human being. You know, you're good enough for being here. You don't have to prove yourself based off of monetary worth or, you know, societal expectations, that kind of thing. Like, you are good enough just by being you. And, you know, in order to improve your life, you really just need to start implementing things slowly but surely, you know, building habit stacking along the way, getting things, I suppose, in some sort of order for you. And you need, really important, to have a vision and have a reason, have a purpose. Like, I think you've probably heard this before, but what is your why? You know, why are you doing things? And for me, when I didn't have a purpose and I didn't have a vision, I felt useless. I felt hopeless. I didn't have any sort of guide or direction in my life of where I wanted to go or who I wanted to be. And now that I have this clear vision, this clear purpose, you know, everything that I do every single day is working towards that purpose. And so, you know, I wake up every day and I do my job and I help people and I work towards helping others become a better version of themselves while I am simultaneously becoming a better version of myself. In order to, I suppose, feel that sense of pride, sense of fulfillment, you know, for me, it is about helping people. And I think everyone should help someone where they can, you know what I mean? And I think that's, you know, that's not saying you have to go out of your way and donate to 1 million charities and things like that, but little things every day, like, you feel such a sense of pride in who you are as a human being when you can go through life helping people. And that could just be something so small that to someone else might be huge. And I think, you know, when you help others, when you guide others, when you educate others, you know, even just nurturing others, being there for others, you know, humans are so meant to connect. We're just meant to have this sense of connection. And I think obviously we've lost a lot of that along the way, but I think every day, you know, show up as someone who does care for other people, who is there for other people, who can be, you know, someone for other people, and find your purpose, find your why, and then every day, you know, work towards that why and who you want to be and who you want to become. And I guarantee that, you know, if you start putting in, I suppose, the necessary actions and building a routine and building a lifestyle that does support you and who you want to be, you'll start to feel better within yourself. And so for me, letting go of that old version of me and working towards this new, better version of me is essential and so important. And I think, you know, I have to put like a big thanks out to my partner for, you know, showing me a lot, you know, teaching me a lot about this kind of thing. He's very confident, very self-assured, you know, he's done a lot of inner work on himself and healing and that kind of thing. And he is the person that has, you know, guided me so much towards this journey of who I've become today. And, you know, especially when it comes to things like people pleasing and that kind of stuff, you know, he's great with that. He's the type of person that's like, nah, if it doesn't serve me, like, that's,
good on
you know,
him.
Awesome. And I was the exact opposite of that. And so I think it's, you know, really important to, I suppose, give him some sort of thanks as well for helping me discover this version of myself, because obviously I've done a lot of this work on my own, but I don't think I would have done it as well if I hadn't had his help. So,
well, it's like the saying, you know, everyone you meet is for a reason, you know.
Definitely.
Like, they
it's
all
like
play
about,
a role.
Yeah, and the people that you surround yourself with. And I've got such a group, like such a good small group of friends and people in my life now that I really, really cherish. And, you know, it really is about the quality and not the quantity of people in your life. And if people in your life aren't, I suppose, helping you level up and build up and, you know, become a better version of yourself, then do they really deserve that spot in your life? And it's like, if you are people pleasing or, you know, breaking down your boundaries in order to keep those people in your life, like, they probably don't deserve a spot there, do they? So
because you're sacrificing bits of yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not helping you or anyone.
No, not at all. And I think, there is so much to be said about the people in your life and the people you keep, the company you keep. And, you know, if they want to see a better version of you and, you know, you want to see a better version of them, you're constantly going to be uplifting each other. You're going to be constantly calling each other out on your shit, you know? Like, I need someone that's going to call me out when I'm being self-destructive or when I'm not being productive for myself. You know, I can't have people in my life that are going to, I suppose, just back down and say, like, you know, oh, that's just Sarah. Like, you know, call me out on my shit. Tell me I'm doing something wrong. Because, it's important. You know, you need people that are going to make you grow and evolve and, you also need to obviously have that mindset yourself in order to grow and evolve, but you do need to surround yourself with people that will push you, you know, that want better for you. So I think in summary for people, you know, surround yourself with positive people, become a positive person in the best way that you can. You know, you have to train your mind to look for the positives in any situation ever. Any bad thing that's ever happened to you, you've come out of the other end, you know, and you've learned something. As much as it probably sucked and it was horrible at the time, you've learned something from it. You've become a better person from it. And I hope so anyways. And I mean, look, there's always the opportunity to become a better person. I think you can either, I suppose, take the hand you're dealt and run with it and do something about it, or you can wallow in it and let it consume you. And I think you've got that decision. And you know, not to sound close-minded, there's obviously awful things that go on in the world, and it's not always, you know, just as easy as well, I'm going to decide to be happy. Like I'm well aware of that, but I think in the grand scheme of things, most things that we go through are small things in the grand scheme of things. And I think every single day, you know, if you let things like wearing the crop top to the gym, or, you know, little things, not little things, but you know what I mean, things like that, in the grand scheme of things, are little things.
It's very minuscule.
It is. It really is. And I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the world. And I think, again, that comes to, you know, reminding yourself of mortality and reminding yourself of the things that are happening in the world, and recognizing that, I suppose, the day-to-day stuff that we deal with is so minute. It really is. It really is. And I think, you know, even some of the stuff that I've been through, like, although it was huge to me at the time, I can look back now and think, my God, I'm so lucky to be here every day. You know, I'm so lucky to wake up and experience the world and experience life and experience, you know, my beautiful partner and my beautiful friends and my family. And I think gratitude, just start looking for little things in every day that you can be grateful for. I think there is so much to be grateful for, and I just don't think we are, as human beings, as grateful as we should be. You know, I think we're so lucky to get to experience this life, and especially, you know, in a country like we do. And, you know, it's just like there is so much in life to be grateful for, and you need to look even for the smallest things every day to be grateful for. And I think gratitude, without sounding all like woo-woo, you know what I mean? Like, gratitude will change your life. Genuinely. I wake up every day, I'm thankful that I can walk. I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for my partner, the home I live in, the job I have, the career I get to, you know, experience, and the way I get to, you know, have an impact on the world. Like, I'm so grateful. You know, I'm grateful to be here today and share my story, and it's just, so I think gratitude. Honestly, I could keep going for ages, gratitude's probably the biggest one. Gratitude, awareness, forgiveness.
Love that.
They're
the big three.
The big three.
I'll get you to close and spray. I'll give you the mirror as well. Here you go.
Thank you. Oh, amazing. It looks so good. Look at my eyes. They're so pretty.
You
nice.
Like it?
Yeah, I like it. No, it looks great. Thank you so much.
All good. All right. And so for our final question, as you discussed a little bit earlier about picturing that version of yourself in the future and living as that person now, what does that best version of yourself look like?
Oh, okay.
Like,
that is, wow. Okay. So I suppose that version of me is just an elevated version of myself now. And so I think I would love to be someone who's, you know, building an empire. And so for me, you know, business and financial security is a big part of I suppose my goals in life. And, you know, I want a family. I want you know, I want to continue this beautiful relationship I have with my partner. And, you know, I want to be someone that every day is like in the pursuit of happiness. You know what I mean? Happiness is never going to be, it's not something that sticks around forever. You know, you're never going to be in a constant state of happiness. But I think, again, if you're in a constant state of gratitude, it's easy to be happier. And so for me, every day, it's going to be someone that remains grateful for the life that I live, and, you know, is always in, I think for me, it's important to reflect back to the person I was and not forget that version of me. Because it's I think it's very easy to forget how far you have actually come.
Yeah.
You know, like there was 2 years ago, I was, you know, suicidal and self-harming and severely depressed, and now I'm running my own business, and I'm, you know, with the man of my dreams, doing the things I love, traveling, working, training. And so I suppose the best version of me is me on steroids. It is me, but just bad bitch energy, confident, building an empire, you know, building a beautiful family, a beautiful life for myself. And so the best version of me is just chasing contentment. Yeah. Just living every day as it comes. Peace. Yeah, just inner peace, you know, feeling so much pride in who I am and what I've achieved, and, you know, just taking every day as it comes and being grateful for every day. And I think, the best version of me is just, living it up, happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and like that past girl, like the past version of you,
little Sarah.
She brought you here, like she to the person you are today. So that's awesome. And
it's like, you know, a lot of the like inner child work and stuff. It's, you know, you have to sit with yourself and give yourself that love and that appreciation that you probably really needed at the time. And, you know, so I would never forget that version of me. That was such a giant part of my life and a giant part of who I am now, and it will be a giant part of who I am in the future. You know, I will be constantly building and looking to improve. And for me, it's not about never being happy with who I am, but it's about, I know there's always more. There's always more. There's always something more for me. There is always a higher power, a higher version of me. There is always, you know, a better version of me that I can get to. And as much as I'm really happy with the person I am now, the business I have now, you know, super grateful for everything I have now, I know that there's always more. There's always more.
Love that. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh my god, he hates affection. Whenever Jimmy and I like hugging whatever, he'll be like,
how rude of you.
Stop it. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode with Sarah. I will link all of her details below.